Hello, I'm KT133 and I'm the UX UI designer for Amelia Darnell, Secrets of Silvercrest Village. GUI stands for Graphical User Interface, things like how the menus, screens, and buttons look. UX stands for the user experience, which is about how the player feels while using the interface of the game. My task is to design interfaces that not only feel good to use, are easy to understand and look pleasing, but also help tell the story of the game. Here is how I developed the interface for the game's inventory. In Amelia Darnell, you'll pick up items that you'll keep in your inventory to use later. But how do we decide what is the best way for the inventory to look? To begin, I like to do research. In this case, looking at how other adventure games handled an inventory. Sometimes it's good to look into the past to solve the future. Some of the games I looked at were 2000's Alice in Wonderland by M and Lexus Interactive, 1999's The Crystal Key, 2017's Siberia 3, Telltale's Sam & Max, and Nancy Drew's Secret of the Old Clock. Those two last games have very different visual aesthetics, but their layouts are similar when you picture their elements as boxes. I started sketching ideas in my notebook. Nobody gets to see these are just for me, so they can be as messy as I want because only I need to understand them. It's important not to be afraid to go out there with brainstorming and try ideas you've not seen before. For example, I came up with an idea to use a zipper as a scroll bar. I like games with diegetic interfaces that look like they could exist in the world of the game, so I thought about backpacks and drawers, things you would store items in. I also looked at trees in Utah, where the game is set. Then I made different mock-ups of how the inventory could look, using rough sketches and placeholder images. A mock-up doesn't have to look perfect, but it should be able to explain to the viewer what is going on. Since I had access to some renders from the game, I used one as the background to help show how the GUI looks with the game's art style, and to show that the GUI doesn't cover up or get in the way of important parts of the scenes. I also used renders of the inventory items because I think using them instead of a more minimalist version of them, such as a silhouette, would make them harder for the player to identify. Is this a piece of paper? Which piece of paper from earlier? The backpack is meant to be Amelia's, so I made it her favorite color. I included notes explaining things like how the player interacts with the elements, possible animations needed, and the games I researched and were inspired by. After narrowing down different ideas, I showed 4 mock-ups to the game director and lead 2D artist. Once the game director decides which mock-up to use, it is handed to the 3D artist to make the needed backpack model, and to the programmer to implement the design into the game. And that is how the inventory was designed for Amelia Darnell. Check out Airtight Alibi Productions for more info on the game.